It was the first day of Little League practice. I was 11 years old, and this year I was going to be a starter at second base. As we milled around, one could easily pick out the kids from last year's team: Lee Payton, Kevin Perkins, Steve Kreutzer, Philip Johnson, Charles Raymond Floyd, and of course, me. We all had on last year's hats. They were off-white with a dark blue bill and a big FNB on the front. First National Bank, our sponsor, would be giving everyone new hats. We knew that. But in the meantime, we wanted to be sure that our new coach could tell the veterans from the rookies. None of us had met our new coach. His name was Mr. Simpson. He was, we were told, new to the area. New to the area and new in town were two different things. If someone was new in town, that generally meant that they had moved from some place we had heard of and were probably still within driving distance of their cousins. New to the area, however, was a hint that this person was from the north. Living as we did in the southern part of Alabama, north to me was Birmingham. At the time, I suppose I was somewhat suspicious of people from the north. This created an intense curiosity about Mr. Simpson, almost a feeling of danger. After all, I had been told more than once that these people were nice, but different. The "but different" part was always said with a raised eyebrow. Mr. Simpson parked his station wagon and gathered the equipment from the back. Bats, balls, helmets, catcher's gear. Yeah, it was all there. We were watching from the backstop, peering through the chicken wire as though we were some wild animal at the zoo. We noticed a boy with him. The boy had red hair and more freckles than I had seen on any human since my Aunt Nancy Jane, and she had freckles on her fingernails. The boy, we figured, was the coach's son, since Mr. Simpson also had red hair and more than his share of freckles. "Hi, boys," Mr. Simpson said as he dumped the equipment near home plate. "My name is Hankin Simpson. I'm your new coach." I glanced to my right. Kevin Perkins was smirking and looking at me. Kevin was kind of a smart aleck, and I knew what he was thinking. Hankin? Where did that name come from? Putting his hand on the shoulder of the red-headed boy, Mr. Simpson continued, "I want you to meet my son. This is Hankin Jr." I didn't dare look toward Kevin. I didn't need to. I could hear him smirking from where I was. "Now, boys," the coach continued, "I'm new to the area." Well, I thought, that explains Hankin. "But I'm sure," he said, "it's going to be a great season, okay? Okay. Now, before we begin practice, take a rap." And with that, he clapped his hands and busied himself arranging the equipment. We shuffled our feet and looked at each other. What, we wondered, did he want us to do? Take a what? A rap. What was a rap? Hankin Jr., we saw, had begun to trot around the field. And figuring he knew what he was doing, we trotted after him. "Rap is a northern word," whispered Philip as we jogged along. "It means to run." I wasn't sure whether to believe him or not. Kevin was a smart aleck, but Philip Johnson made things up. He was what 5-year-olds called a storyteller, what we called a fibber, and what adults called a liar. He could look you right in the eye, tell you a fib, and he would be so convincing you never doubted him. Even though I had never trusted him, I kept him as a friend because I had heard my dad tell my mom he was sure to become president one day. Back at home plate, all out of breath from running a rap, we gathered around Mr. Simpson, quite sure he would now assign positions. We veterans thrust our caps toward his face, a virtual sea of FNBs, silently pleading with the man not to look at one of us and say, "Right field." Since time began, all Little Leaguers have had a fear of right field. There are 9 positions on a baseball diamond, and in the glamour department, right field ranks dead last. Most batters are right-handed and hit the ball to left field. Therefore, a coach who wants to avoid long losing streaks will naturally put his weakest player in right. I had had my brush with this humiliation 2 years earlier as the weak link for Henley's hardware store, green hat, white H. Standing in right field game after game with nary a ball hit my way, I never believed the adults who told me I was an integral part of the team. I couldn't catch, but I wasn't stupid. A permanent residence in right field was an embarrassment. It was a curse. I was certain I had been branded for the rest of my life. I could imagine myself as a grown-up going to a job interview and being told, "I'm sorry, but there's no place for you in the space program. I see on your record here that you played right field." "Boys," Mr. Simpson began, "we're going to be a winner this year. I'm excited about this team. Before we get started, I want to check you out at certain positions. Don't worry, if you're new to the game, on my team, everybody gets to pray. Excuse me? Did he say pray? I looked at Steve Kreitzer. He was jabbing Charles Raymond Floyd in the ribs. Lee Payton was jabbing Kevin, and Philip jabbed me. I know this is just practice, the coach continued, but no matter, I want you to pray your hearts out. This team, I thought, is in trouble. Either someone had told our new leader that last year we lost 17 out of 23 games, or he took one look at us and decided we were a bunch of rejects. What it boiled down to, I was beginning to believe, was that if we were to have a winning season, Mr. Simpson had settled on prayer as our only hope. 30 minutes later, we were in the positions that would be ours more or less for the rest of the year. I was at second base, so I was happy. Steve was at first, Kevin at third, Lee was our catcher, and Charles Raymond stood in right field with the other kids who couldn't catch. Philip Johnson, meanwhile, pouted at shortstop. He wanted to pitch. Actually, we wanted him to pitch too. But as soon as we had seen there was a Hankins Simpson Jr., we knew he would not. Every member of First National Bank was acutely aware of that age-old Little League law: if the coach has a son, the team has a pitcher. This has become such an accepted part of coaching methodology that no one ever thinks to question it. A Little League coach is usually the father of one of the players, and he always has a blind spot where his son is concerned. Can the kid throw strikes? Has he got a curveball? Does he trip over his own feet? It doesn't really matter. He's the coach's son. Put him on the mound and call him a pitcher. We practiced hard that first day, trying to show Mr. Simpson our stuff. We dove for grounders, we swung for the fence, and generally showed as much hustle as we could muster. We didn't seem to be a vastly improved team from the year before. I blew a sure double play. Our new pitcher was throwing the ball over the backstop, and Charles Raymond got hit in the head by a pop fly and cried. Coach Simpson didn't say much, but when he did, he was saying things we didn't understand. Take another rap. Pray hard, pray hard. We were a confused group of kids. It was at the end of practice, however, during the compulsory pep talk, when everything became crystal clear. There's one thing about this game you can count on, he said. If you don't learn to watch a baseball here at the baseball grove, you will never be an excellent baseball player. Well, we were stunned. After 2.5 hours of total darkness, we suddenly understood. A rap? Pray? He had wanted us to take a lap. He had wanted us to play hard. How could we have not figured it out? From the depths of a pep talk to which no one was listening, like a bolt from the blue, those weird words all came together and made sense. Certain words from his last sentence jumped out at us like sparks from a bonfire. Blah, 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 run, blah, 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 baseball, blah, 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 baseball grub, blah, 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 excellent baseball prayer. It was now an undeniable fact that had become apparent to all of us in one fell swoop. Coach Simpson could not say his L's. We stood silently exchanging furtive glances as Hankins Jr. and Sr. got in the car and drove away. No one had spoken a word yet. But we suspected we had been the recipients of a miracle from God. We could scarcely contain our collective excitement. To a group of 11-year-old boys, nothing beats having a human target at which to laugh. Double the fun if the boys are able to mimic the target, and triple if the target happens to be an adult. Kevin was smirking again. We shuffled around and snickered a few minutes. Then it started. Charles Raymond said, "I'm a baseball player." Steve said, "No, you ain't. You're a right fielder." Kevin laughed. "Take a rap, take a rap." Lee said, "Coach Simpson, I like him. I really do." Philip said, "My name is Fearup. Take a rap, take a rap." And we were laying on the ground laughing. And so it continued until we were exhausted, finally able to breathe at last. We lounged in the dirt around home plate. Philip spoke first. "I think he's Oriental," he said. Oriental people use the letter R in place of the letter L when they speak English because they don't have the letter L in their own language. That's why he does it. Coach Simpson is Oriental. Remember, he said he was new to the area. He's Oriental. Oriental, Charles Raymond asked. Is that when you know your way around? Kevin smirked again. "No, stoop. He means Japanese, right? Kevin glanced my way. I wanted to tell Philip I had never seen a 6'3", 240-pound, red-haired, freckle-faced Japanese guy before. That's what I wanted to say, but Philip was looking at me with such an air of self-confidence that I knew the truth didn't have a chance against such a convincing opponent. I was about to give it a try anyway when Lee suddenly giggled. "What?" we demanded. "I was just thinking," Lee said as he tried to talk through his laughter. "I was just thinking that one day this year, I'm going to be rounding third." He stopped and laughed. "I'm going to be rounding third, headed toward this here home plate, and..." He was really laughing now. "Tell us," we said. "I'm going to be headed toward this here home plate, and Coach Simpson's going to yell, 'Stride, Ree, stride!'" That did it. We were off and laughing again. We never mentioned the Oriental theory ever again. Kevin told me privately one day that he thought Philip was full of mess. I took that to be Kevin's way of saying he didn't believe Coach Simpson was Japanese either. Not that it would have mattered. One of our best friends, Peter Chin, was Japanese or something. He said his L's perfectly, too, except, of course, when he was mimicking Coach Simpson with us. Several memories of that year still remain clear in my mind. To this day, Philip Johnson is Firup to everyone who played on that team. And no one has forgotten the game that Lee Payton rounded third, headed for home, and fell down before he got there, laughing. Because Coach Simpson really did yell, "Stride, Bree, stride!" If I had to choose one capsule of time during that season to carry with me for the rest of my life, it'd have to be the day Steve Krotzer got kicked off the team. Maybe kicked off is too harsh. Actually, he was transferred to another team because the league president found that Steve's family was living in another district. It was a messy situation. Steve had played with us for 4 years, 2 on Henley's hardware store and 2 with First National Bank. Now they were sending him to play with the team buying an Olive Motel near his home. We were sick. Steve was our friend and a darn good first baseman. He didn't want to go, and we didn't want him to leave. But that last day did arrive. When practice was over, Coach Simpson gathered us around the pitcher's mound. He had his hand on Steve's shoulder. "Boys," he said, "this is a sad day. We're going to miss Steve. He's a fine bar player and a fine young man." Steve was close to tears. We were too. "I don't understand the inner workings of the system," Coach Simpson continued, "and I'm not sure why this has happened. But I do know one thing, and look at me when I say this because this is important. I want every one of you to know that this was not Steve's fault." As a group, Steve included, we jumped as if 10,000 volts of electricity had passed through our bodies. Did he say what we thought he said? Surely not. "No," he continued, "this was not Steve's fault, and it wasn't my fault." Yes, he did most definitely, absolutely, too, say what we thought he said. Oh, sure, we knew what he meant. We'd been unconsciously translating Simpsonisms all year. He was telling us it wasn't Steve's fault, but that wasn't what we were hearing. It wasn't Steve's parents' fault either. I guess it was just nobody's fault. It was too good to be true. Of all the words in the world guaranteed to make an 11-year-old boy laugh, only one of them is all by itself at the top of the list. And our coach, an adult, was saying that word over and over and over. If it's anybody's fault, it's the system's fault. So don't pin the fault on any one person, because it's just not their fault. Well, I'm not exaggerating when I say we were literally laying on the ground. We were crying. Coach Simpson thought we really were crying and became concerned. He sounded desperate as we tried to comfort us, but the more he explained that it wasn't our fault, the more out of hand things became. Soon tears were rolling down Coach Simpson's face too. Several of us felt badly about that later, but as Kevin said, "Hey, don't worry about it. It ain't our fault." haven't seen Coach Simpson in years. Kevin Perkins and Steve Kreutzer were in my wedding. Lee Payton went to medical school and returned to practice in our town. Charles Raymond Floyd, our right fielder, was a late bloomer. He was a center fielder in college, made second-team All-American, and played 3 years of minor league ball. I've totally lost track of Philip Johnson. The last I heard, he was a used car salesman and mayor of a small town in Louisiana. I still remember us all as we were that summer. I can close my eyes and hear the explosions of laughter as we reacted to something that was, to us, the funniest thing in the world. And I feel a little sad when I think that when we were 11, we may have laughed harder than we ever would again.